With schools opening soon, we'll look at some of the steps being taken to make them safer. Also a chat with Diane Eickhoff and Aaron Barnhart, authors of The Big Divide. And from the healthcare desk, what the heck's an ocularist? It's all coming up on The Local Show.
Principal funding for The Local Show provided by Francis Family Foundation, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Johnson County Community College, John and Effie Spees Memorial Trust, Bank of America trustee, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Commerce Bank trustee, and KCPT members. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Randy Mason. Welcome once again to The Local Show. In a couple of weeks, when most of the metro schools come back from summer vacation, students and teachers will see changes in security, both large and small. School districts here are spending millions of dollars on reconstruction, technology, and training, all in the name of keeping our kids safer. Just last week, school officials and police in Johnson County reviewed a new plan to help secure schools there. But are we spending money on the right things? And will all this really make a difference? We sent KCPT special correspondent Sam Zeff to find out.
If you're wondering what the shootings in Sandy Hook, or Columbine, or any of the other dozens of lesser-known school shootings has wrought, well, here it is. This is the Freshman Center in the Blue Springs School District, where they're spending $14 million in a $20 million bond issue to make a half-dozen schools safer. They're moving the offices to the front of the buildings, making entrances more secure, and even taking out some windows to make it harder to see in. In security jargon, they're hardening the target.
If the people say we want bulletproof and they want to pay for it, we put bulletproof windows in. So, again, how much do they want to spend? The public will let us know how much they want to spend.
When it comes to school security, Blue Springs doesn't nibble around the edges. It's the only district in Missouri with its own police department with 7 full-time officers. In the past 5 years, Blue Springs has also bought more than $850,000 worth of cameras, software, and door control devices. But this is happening everywhere. In the last 2 years, Independence has spent $250,000 on security systems. Raytown has spent $1.7 million on everything from cameras to access control systems. And over in Kansas, in Olathe, they're spending $32 million of a $245 million bond issue approved last month on security upgrades to buildings and technologies. In just the last 2 years, the 10 biggest districts in the metro have spent over $55.7 million improving security.
There is no such thing as enough, because we don't want one child to be hurt. We don't want one child killed.
Indeed, school shootings have created a whole new market for security companies.
It has been absolutely incredible for our school district.
This is a promotional video from Cisco Industries, who's a major player in school security. So is Stanley Security Solutions, not to mention hundreds of local companies all around the country.
I didn't know there were so many vendors out there that do all this kind of stuff till we started getting our bonds going and getting contacted by them. Yeah, it's quite interesting. This is this big business now. So.
A huge business, actually. One industry study predicts that spending on school security systems will grow 80% by 2017, and some of that growth can be attributed to, not surprisingly, lobbying. A group called the Security Industry Association has lobbied Congress and wrote the president, pressing for more money aimed at school security. According to federal records, SIA has spent $1.6 million since 2002 lobbying Congress. Even the makers of mace have made the rounds on Capitol Hill. Call it the rise of the school security industrial complex.
If School District A spends $1 million, School District B, which was planning to spend $500,000, now there's pressure to create the impression that their schools are just as safe as the schools in the next district over.
John Rury is a professor at the University of Kansas School of Education. He says much of this spending may be misplaced.
It's a human issue, and we want to make it into a technological issue. This is about people and their behavior and people helping each other think about their behavior.
Rury says more should be spent on training current school staff, and he means everybody from teachers to bus drivers, to recognize problems and solve them before they explode into violence.
The awareness has to come that we can actually prevent tragedies.
Which is something they're already doing at the UMKC Regional Development Center, where Dr. Julie Collins is the director. Right after Sandy Hook, the center reached out to educators to get the training going.
Do you think that it's easier to get money from legislatures, school boards, local authorities for cops and door buzzers than it is to do what you're talking about here today?
I do think it is probably easier to get funding for more tangible elements. We can see the presence of a school resource officer in the building who greets us and makes sure that he's aware of strangers who enter the building. What isn't always evident until we bring awareness to our community and to our parents is what are we doing also on the preventative measures to keep our schools socially and emotionally safe on the inside, as well as those external measures that you can actually see.
I'm not sure that adding additional SROs really addresses the threat other than making people feel secure because there's more people in uniforms walking around who are designated for that task. A task which probably can be carried out by existing school personnel without giving them guns.
Guns. You knew we were going there.
I don't want every person I know to be carrying a gun. But there are plenty of people in our schools that I would trust personally, that I wouldn't have any problem at all with my child being in their class.
State Senator Forrest Knox is a Republican from Altoona, Kansas. He was the chief sponsor of a new law that took effect in July that now allows school employees to carry guns, but only if the district says yes, and if the employee has a conceal and carry permit. A similar bill made its way through the Missouri General Assembly, and already the West Plains School District near the Ozarks has teachers carrying firearms. Republicans and some Democrats in both Topeka and Jefferson City embrace the NRA doctrine.
The only thing that stops a bad guy with a gun is a good guy with a gun.
Our members have said overwhelmingly, we don't support that. We don't believe that.
Charles Smith is the Missouri NEA president who taught for 27 years in the Center School District in South Kansas City.
We're there to educate the children. That's our job. And not to carry pistols or carry guns and when we have someone who's trained to take care of our children, to take care of our employees.
But it's not just teachers saying no. EMC Insurance, who covers most of the schools in Kansas, says it won't insure districts that arm teachers. The company sent around this letter saying EMC has concluded that concealed handguns on school premise pose a heightened liability risk.
It feels to me like this is the marketplace speaking. Mm-hmm. That this is private industry saying, this is such a bad idea, we can't raise your rates enough to cover you. How do you respond to that?
This is the market responding, but the market's not one company. The market is multiple companies. My opinion is that this is an emotionally charged topic, and perhaps their response was more based on internal policies, which lots of times are based on the points of views of their management, rather than hard numbers.
In the end, the insurance will work itself out. Already, another company has stepped in and told 3 community colleges in Kansas that they will write a policy if the schools choose to allow guns on campus. But remember the Blue Springs district, which has its own police force? They don't want armed teachers either.
I know as a police officer, if we're in the schools, we don't want other people that are in the building armed. That way we know who all the bad guys are. But the training that we do, and we do with other, like I said, police agencies in the area, is very important. It's ongoing. It changes all the time depending on what's happened worldwide. whereas some of those areas, they may not get that training and may not be as proficient in the qualification.
With billions more being spent on everything from cameras to cops, perhaps the most important thing to remember is this. Even with Sandy Hook fresh in our memories, American schools are among the safest places in the country. By one study, kids are 66 times more likely to die from parental abuse than school violence.
Right now, no school district in Kansas has decreed that it will allow teachers to carry guns, although the School Board Association says some rural districts have inquired about it. So far in Missouri, only West Plains has said yes to armed teachers. There are also questions about liability coverage flying around in several other states, which do allow teachers to carry guns in schools. Our region's contentious history lies at the heart of a new book called The Big Divide, written by a pair of Kansas City authors, Diane Eickhoff and Aaron Barnhart. If that name sounds familiar, you may recall him as the Star's TV critic for many years. He's also a history buff who met our own Angie Simmons some 15 years ago while he was portraying the Reverend Thomas Johnson at Constitution Hall in Lecompton. That's just one of the sites Aaron and Diane feature in the book, whose purpose is to help us get out and do some discovering of our own.
You're both writers. You've been writing books on history solo. You've been writing solo. How did you go about kind of co-writing it?
Well, Aaron was my driver. I don't drive, and so he accompanied me throughout Kansas, and we did a lot of talking about Kansas early history and realized it was an underserved story, and you can't do Kansas for long without running into Missouri and realizing what was going on this border. Actually, we started out as many years ago. We met through the Civil War.
As in the Ken Burns film.
Aaron did not own a TV.
Don't tell anybody that. But I would go over to her house and we'd watch. It was Monday night, so they were re-airing it at that time, and she'd make dinner and we'd watch it together. Another thing that we also realized very early on was when we would visit sites in Missouri, we would get a very different interpretation of events than historic sites in Kansas.
Absolutely, yeah.
And so this is the divide in our book title. Mm-hmm. The fact that if you grew up in Kansas, Jim Lane and John Brown were heroes, and Quantrill was the devil. If you were in Missouri, the Union Army was the devil for driving 20,000 people out of 4 western Missouri counties under Order Number 11. But the reason we call the book The Big Divide is that we actually think to visitors from outside the area, as well as to people who are exploring the rich history of this region, you get more out of it if you have both stories together.
How did you decide to organize the book? Because it is organized differently than, say, maybe just your traditional, like, start at point A and go, although there are some nice driving tours.
I think because I'm a historian, I think about stories, and so just kind of going from one place to another geographically didn't really make sense. So I decided, and Aaron concurred, that it would be an interesting change of pace to organize the book chronologically and to give a mini history of the border region, which helps to put everything into context for the reader.
Yeah, you got to understand the Mid-Atlantic region with the Eastern Theater and the Civil War, those are the most storied battles, but they're also the most written about battles. Now, if you go and visit the actual interpreted battle sites, they vary. So yes, there's Gettysburg, which is a spectacular $100 million visitor center and all that. But then you go to a site like Monocacy, and it's just kind of there. I think we counted there 9 battlefield sites, Civil War battlefield sites in the Missouri-Kansas border region, and they can hold their own. And if you're looking around for a guide that really makes you understand the history that you're stepping on when you arrive at that battlefield or arrive at that historic site or walk into that museum, it's slim pickings. So we knew that once we got this book into people's hands, they would immediately put it to the use for which it was intended.
And you had covered some gems. Were there any sites in here that you were like, people need to know about this site? This is one of those that folks don't think to to go travel to, but that it's an amazing place to go.
Well, we almost called our 10th Civil War battlefield because a lot of people now understand this was where the Civil War began. If we talk about the breakdown of political compromise and the beginning of people picking up guns and shooting at each other, that Civil War started in Blackjack, the battlefield just outside of Baldwin City, which has, you know, the land was acquired about 12 years ago, and a small group of volunteers have assiduously put that into, restored a lot of it into prairie, and they're restoring the site. But more importantly, they just take you to where John Brown and his band of 30 farmers, this is post-Potawatomi Massacre, basically forced the surrender of an equally small band of federal troops, which at that point were supporting the pro-slavery Democratic administration in Washington. So for me, you know, that's a great bit of history you don't get anywhere else. And then the other is, of course, right across the state line in Missouri, and that's Island Mound, another place where the border region makes unprecedented history when it's the first time African-American soldiers anywhere are sent to fight and die for their freedom.
And coincidentally, both of those sites have been named national landmarks in the last year. In the fall of last year, both of them were given that honor. So they are very significant sites, not just regionally, but nationally.
But that's the thing. This history is catching up. That's the thing. This is trending history, if you can say such a thing.
Why not?
Yeah, that's right. These are historic sites that whose historic value was not recognized until recently, because again, the Western theater of the Civil War has always been downplayed. Now people understand that the worst guerrilla violence anywhere in the Civil War was fought here. People understand that the spark was lit among the Missouri-Kansas border. And in many ways, the post-Civil War battle over who controls the message began here, when Jesse James refused to accept the outcome of the Civil War and began his reign of terror up and down, protected by a lot of people who felt the same way he did about the Union. There's a big idea in this book, and it's not our idea, it's an idea other people have been working on. And the idea is that the Missouri-Kansas border region is the most consequential border in American history.
And I think it may have taken two outsiders. Aaron's from Montana originally. I'm from Minnesota, and we met in Chicago. So I think it might have taken two outsiders to really see this as a big story. Almost from the beginning, we realized something was going on here. When we moved here, we said, what's all this?
I think what's great about this, it's not just about history. We hear a lot about the natural history and, you know, other things that, I mean, it's not just about the big divide, but also exploring these communities. And so,
absolutely, and it's exploring other eras in history as well. I mean, we start with the land and all the particular qualities of this land, which was basically prairie. There's a lot of early Indian history, American Indian history in this region.
Because you can't understand what happens later with the border wars unless you understand that Kansas white settlement was held out for 33 years. Whites weren't allowed to settle. That's why they jumped on the Oregon Trail and the California Trail, because they couldn't settle in Kansas. And so by the time it's finally opened up to white settlement with the Kansas-Nebraska Act, the type of person who wants to settle in Kansas is completely different from the person who's settling in Missouri, and that's where
that
the seeds
colors everything.
It does.
Yes, and then on the other end of things, there are all these sites that honor things that happened after the Civil War and even into the 20th century. Places like Brown v. Board of Education, which is really an outgrowth of the struggle for civil rights, of course, in Topeka, and that's a fantastic museum.
Historic sites are not theme parks, right? They're run by volunteers. They're not programmed to have the exact same experience whether you show up at 9 a.m. or 5 p.m.
Exactly.
These are labors of love in many cases. Even folks who are working for the federal government, they work for low pay. They're extremely dedicated to their site and to the history of their site and to telling the story of their site. We want to honor those people, and one way we feel we can do that is to get people to understand the importance of the site and how to get there.
Well, people should just get out. They should go and get the book. So where should they go? I mean, I know I got mine at the Liberty Jail off the square in Liberty, so I know that you can get them at the sites.
Yes.
But where else? How can people pick up a copy of the book?
Our website, we've got a couple places. One, obviously, since we're everywhere. You can get us on Amazon or your favorite online bookseller, and we have an ebook there as well. But if you like to shop locally, and we are, after all, doing this on The Local Show.
Right, I would encourage that.
I would encourage people to go to our website, thebigdivide.com/stores. And that has a list of all of our partner vendors who sell the Big Divide in the gift shop. And of course, by buying it there, you know, you're supporting local preservation and local enterprise.
And then you can stop and see the site
and
while
see
you're
the
there,
site.
while you're there, and get it, and then start your journey, right?
Yeah. Absolutely.
Thank you so much, Diane Eickhoff and Aaron Barnhart, for co-authors of The Big Divide. Thanks for joining us.
Our pleasure.
When you think of prosthetic eyes, if you do at all, you probably picture the old glass eye. But for the last 60 years or so, most have been made from acrylic. A lot of work goes into crafting an ocular prosthesis. And one area man, Bud Turntine, an aspiring artist in his youth, has turned his talents into a 30-year career making what he calls wearable art. Health Desk reporter Todd Feeback takes us into Bud's world as he creates eyes for two very different patients.
Most people, if I say I'm an ocularist, they always say, oh, that must have something to do with eyes, but they still don't know what it means. So once I explain that to them, people are usually fascinated with it.
When she was about 3 months, she had just kind of a freak accident where there was an item that fell off a shelf and caught her right in the eye. And I remember when it first happened, I was crying to Zach because when I was little, I knew this gentleman who had a wooden eye that always scared me. And so when I heard that she would probably have to have some sort of prosthetic, that's all I could think of. And so when we saw what Bud could do, it was like, oh, thank you, Lord. She's not gonna have an eye that was like that.
Betsy in her wooden eye. That would have a different chorus.
Hey, I was in shock. That's what all I could think of was wooden eye.
The chorus Zach refers to is from a song that a friend wrote for his daughter called One-Eyed Betsy, which she sang a bit of for Bud recently.
Oh, my one-eyed Betsy, one-eyed Betsy.
Robin Macy, a founding member of the Dixie Chicks, wrote the song after meeting Betsy and put the song on an album just released in May called Wild Sweet William.
I guess I've met a lot of people through this whole eye incident and have gotten to know someone like Bud who we didn't know existed before this, and we think he's a pretty amazing guy, what he can do with his talent, and it's kind of changed our world for the better, so that's good.
It takes more than painting skills to be an ocularist, and they aren't in every city.
Board-certified ocularists, there's approximately 150 in the United States and Canada. It's a 5-year program. I mean, there's a number of things that's involved in making a prosthesis, not just the painting portion. I mean, there's the physical anatomy issues that you work with lid structures and orbital structures and implants that you have to fit over with the prosthesis, because with the newer technology now, we get a lot of movement and motility with the prosthesis if it's fitted correctly.
Right there for me.
Jim Wampler lost his sight in his right eye due to an accident, and the eye was recently removed. During Jim's portrait session, as Bud calls the painting portion of the process, he tries to match the other eye as closely as possible. Obviously, the pupil size won't change, so Bud interviews his patients to figure out a size that matches the lighting conditions for their most common activities.
I have a lady that's a librarian that typically her pupil would probably be smaller than someone that's a waitress in a restaurant or a bar in the evening.
To match the veining in an eye, Bud uses commonly available embroidery thread.
Did you want a drinking eye or just a regular eye?
Obviously, we tell people, don't use any kind of artificial tears or get the red out type drops before they come in to see me. We want to reproduce what they have as close as possible, and we don't want to mute that. Or one of the nice things about an acrylic eye, though, is that if we need to add more veining or we need to change a color or something like that, that can be done. We just, take the clear coating off and touch up the color or the scleral tones or add more veining or whatever the patient needs.
The color didn't wash off, huh?
No, it didn't wash off. Black dots go to the top, a little bit down.
Yeah. I just need to figure out some way of propping the eyelid open.
No, it's open.
It's actually open.
Each eye costs between $2,000 to $4,000, and they last on average about 5 to 7 years. Bud does recommend they come in for a clean and polish every year.
That's basically because of the shape of the...
Correct, and the thickness. The biggest challenge is sometimes the expectations that patients have to look completely normal. Obviously we can get people, we can do a great illusion, but I'm certainly not the creator. Yeah, I always tell people that my work is walking work. Everybody has a little piece of my artwork and they're wearing it, so that's kind of fun. Yeah.
Remember, you can learn more about the stories you've seen here and the ones you've missed on the web at thelocalshow.org. And that is it for this edition of The Local Show. I'm Randy Mason. Thanks for watching.
Principal funding for The Local Show provided by Francis Family Foundation, Frederick and Louise Hartwig Family Fund, Kaufman Foundation, Healthcare Foundation of Greater Kansas City, Johnson County Community College, John and Effie Spees Memorial Trust, Bank of America trustee, Richard J. Stern Foundation for the Arts, Commerce Bank trustee, and KCPT members. Thank you.